Respect. I'm Mark Bishop. We got Mike Ball. And Aaron was here. We're going to pop back in a minute. I don't know what happened there. Let's give become a regular thing.
Yep.
But what's up, everybody? Glad you was able to tune in.
Okay.
We got another interesting uh, set of events that we're going to talk about. Seems like everything is changing daily, so it's uh, it's a lot to cover. Being the fact that you see, just Wednesday we had a whole thing, and then between Wednesday and now it's a whole another thing that went on since then. So we're going to try to get everybody caught up. Some of the things you may have heard, some of them you may not have heard, but um, our job is to keep you in the know of everything. So that's what we're going to do. In the meantime, before we get started, everybody hit that like button. That's what's going to put us out on the right algorithm and be able to get this out to as many people as possible. Um, so tonight we're going to deal with one of the biggest foreign policy stories that's happening right now, and this whole thing is dealing with this U.S. Iran ceasefire agreement, the Strait of Hormuz sanction relief, nuclear inspections, Israel's reaction, and whether this is actually a real peace deal or whether America is handling Iran more power in the Middle East. But let me get this clear before we start that what we're talking about is nothing dealing with wanting a war to go on. Nobody should actually want war. The real question that we're asking is if peace is a goal, then what price are we paying for it? And is the United States getting on a return for offering this stuff? Because when you look at what Iran appears to be receiving, oil sales, sanctions, access to frozen funds, uh, regional legitimacy, a seat at the table, so to speak, and leverage over the Strait of Hormuz. A lot of people are asking, what exactly is America getting besides promises? Because it seems like that's what's the biggest thing in this 14 points that came out. It seems like there's a whole lot of promises that we're giving on our, a lot of stuff that we're giving out on our end, and we're just getting back promises that we're going to do something like this year. So right before show started, I went and did a little look up real quick to see did anything breaking go on in between times. So it's a few things that happened that I'm gonna read this part off of, and then go on. You can comment on whatever you want to comment on, and then we're gonna go on down the line. So they said that yesterday, um, the U.S. said Iran had agreed to allow international nuclear inspections. Today, Iran reiterated that the timing and scope of the inspections will only be finalized in a final agreement, while the head of the IAEA said inspections will happen, but the exact timing is still being worked out. So the disagreement isn't whether the inspections matter. The disagreement is when they begin and under what conditions they begin. So a lot of the people are talking now because a lot of the stuff that we're actually giving Iran right now, which is money, lifting sanctions and stuff like this, they're getting immediately. But things like this, is having an inspection, and they're like, no, 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 we're not going to let you do it now until we do a final agreement. So a lot of people are talking like, okay, so why are we giving you this, but you're not giving us anything until after the final thing is done? You know what I mean? So that puts a lot of speculation out there too. So we're gonna dig into that in a minute. Um, Another thing that was breaking was Secretary of State Rubio is continuing meetings in the Gulf allies because many remain worried about the agreement to strengthen Iran financially without fully addressing missiles and nuclear verification. So if America's allies is still, if they still need that reassurance, does that mean that they're not yet convinced that this deal actually protects the overall security of that region? Um, Another thing we're gonna that we're going to bring up. And Israel says that it intends to maintain troops in southern Lebanon for security reasons, um, despite Iranian objections. And that means that one of the largest disagreements surrounding this broader regional negotiations still remains unsolved, because Israel still considers where they're at as a buffer zone, and they're not leaving from there. So, uh, which is still that whole back and forth thing that's going on now. So to the first one that I just read there, when it was talking about the IAEA inspections and the fact that um, Iran isn't willing to let these investigators come in and actually look at anything until after the 60,
Mhm.
and there's an actual agreement in place. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's fair, or do you think that being the fact that we're giving so much here that should be a give and take type situation?
I think what is and ought be is going to be two different things. I expected it to be something that's going to be at the end of the 60 days that we're talking about these inspectors. But one thing that's also interesting that happened this morning actually is we lifted sanctions on Iran for the first time basically in 40 years, where they can participate in selling oil to the global market essentially. That
Hmm.
happened just this morning. And so there's a lot of different concessions that we're seeing from the United States where we're allowing them to do, it's immediate. Like we're immediately going to do this. We're going to immediately do this. For them, they get to be lackadaisical. Oh, we'll do this after the 60 days, because that's truly where they do have the leverage in the aspect of negotiating at this point. They're gonna play their cards, and they're doing it well.
Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna add to that. Iran is basically sticking their chest out. Their confidence is high. They're acting cocky, and they know that this is their time in history, and they're doing it. They're showing all the third world countries that they took on a superpower, and even though they didn't win a single battle, they won the war, and they're going to get paid for their inconvenience, and they're being allowed to control the strait. So they're walking with their chest stuck out big time. And because we want out of this war so bad, because we may have to fight the Chinese next year, and our munitions have been depleted by the Ukrainian war and by arming the Israelis and fighting Iran right now with our smart munitions and stuff. Uh, we've asked the motor companies, Ford, GM, a few other companies, to start building war munitions, but they haven't done it yet. And even if they started today, will we be able to replenish our stockpiles in time to fight China in 2027? I don't think it's physically possible, because this war and the Ukrainian war is going to constantly be a slow drain on our munitions.
True.
And, you know, but we created the Frankenstein monster. We conceded the straight to him. So the monster's going to be what we made him be, and we got to put up with it, or we got to go back to war. But what is the fascinating thing in history is, I'm gonna say it like this: all trade wars have led to war
Hmm.
historically. So, do they really want peace right now, or is this just a pretense to eventually get back in to a full scale war? And that's the question that needs to be asked right now. Could Iran be lying? Because every time we come up with an agreement, they say we don't have one. Is this part of their strategy? They keep disagreeing with what's in it. And if a country keeps disagreeing with what's in it or what should be in it, do we really feel that in the long run they're going to keep the agreement? And that would be a hard question to answer. But let me stop there.
Aaron, one thing I did want to say is it's not only just the attribute of military front on war front and stuff like that. How you said
Mhm.
there's trade and stuff like that as well, different types
Right.
of war that lead to real war. But another one of those things, especially while we're in the middle of a conflict like that, another aspect of warfare is, of course, psychological warfare, which you're going to see a lot on from no matter what side, our side, their side, where we say we got something better than we actually did. And same thing with them. They're saying, you know, these guys are suckers and they're bowing down to us. That's, I mean, that's totally typical, especially during any type of ceasefires or peace deals. Both sides love to claim that they won, you know, like, oh, we got the better end of the deal, you know. It's like, okay, well, you both suck, you know. But anyways,
Well, we read these 14 points
yes,
last
we
week,
still have them.
and on those 14 points, there's where Aaron had pointed out that there's several points on there that if one thing is violated, then everything else goes out. And these 14 points that we're looking at here, a lot of this stuff is, well, I don't really see much in this that's actually in our favor, for real.
Right.
Other than the fact of opening the strait for 60 days. Other than that, I don't really see anything that's in this thing that's actually in our favor. You know what I mean? Now, they said that they promised that they wouldn't have a nuclear weapon. Okay, big deal. That's nothing. You know what I mean? But they're getting what, 300 to 500 billion back from frozen access. They get another 24 to 25 billion back on one end. Then they getting just like you said, they just lifted the sanctions to where they're able to sell their oil. So they're making billions off of this deal. Okay. Right now, because a lot of this stuff is coming as this deal was signed. Some of this stuff came in like, okay, this stuff starts today. So why is it that you can't go in and have them to check out and see exactly what's going on with the nuclear side of this before you make any kind of agreement? You know what I mean? It kind of seems to me like someone is selling a car and the car looks pretty on the outside, but they won't let you drive it until you sign for it. You know what I mean? So you don't know what you're getting.
True.
You know what I mean? So this could be like, okay, you go there and you find a gold mine with all this rich uranium, or you go over there and you find out that it's all a dud and you just gave up all this money to them and gave them all this access. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a damn if you do, damn if you don't type situation. I mean, like you said, the end game could be, okay, we shut this deal down and we end up going back to war, which, like I said, people don't want that. But on the other hand, you don't want to get screwed either.
Right.
And that's exactly what this seems like. Like this is a whole power play here. Basically, everybody is getting strengthened up on that end, whether it's political wise or money wise. Everybody's getting built up on this end, and you sitting here just waiting to see what they're willing to let you do. You know what I mean? That don't seem, in the terms of fair. You're talking about fairness. That doesn't seem to be where we're on the same playing field when it comes to that. Now we know, like over the weekend, the talks were disrupted for a little bit. Because of the renewed fighting, dealing with Israel and Hezbollah over in Lebanon, and Iran's position was basically, how can we talk about peace while Israel is still striking Lebanon and Hezbollah is still involved in this conflict? Now, that matters to this agreement, not just about, and that part there is not just about nuclear weapons anymore. It is more expanded into Lebanon, Israel, Hezbollah, shipping lanes, the oil markets on that end, sanctions, and that regional security over in that end, which is still kind of up in the air too, because now the U.S. making this deal with Iran, but these points also where you basically telling Israel what they're not going to do, which that's also another problem, because Israel's coming back saying, okay, you made a deal with them. We didn't make no deal with them. So we're saying we can do whatever the hell we want to do.
Right.
We didn't make no deal with them. You did. And then I seen one yesterday where they were saying that it was like, we asked you to come here to help us with them. Now you basically trying to side with them, but you want us to just stop what we doing. We're not going to do it. You know what I mean? And I said last week that this was going to be the biggest part of this agreement. Israel had to be able to play right along with it, and they're not going to do that.
No,
You know what I mean? They're
no,
not going to
that
sit back.
fight, that fight runs forever. I mean,
Right.
well, not really, but you know what I mean in the aspect of Hezbollah. They have a little bit more of a grievance than even against their other adversaries because they're neighbors. I mean, direct neighbors, right? And that's the direct hand of Iran, essentially. So there is this animosity between Iran and Hezbollah, but in particular Hezbollah up in Lebanon. So that's going to be, on a military front, that's where we're going to definitely see that there's going to be a breach of, contract or ceasefire, whatever. You're going to see those kind of things on a military front aspect, sure. And we saw it in the first 24 hours. We saw it in the first 48 hours. We saw it in the first 72 hours. I mean, it was kind of nonstop. So this is the very first time in the actually within I'd say the last 80 some odd hours where there was somewhat peace, where there wasn't direct, drones or missiles being lobbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this whole deal seems hella sketchy to me, and like I said before, because this whole deal seems one-sided. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, so they getting this sanction relief, they getting this money, they getting, being able to make billions off of this, which they already have. You know what I mean? Since
well, a lot of
signed.
that's still frozen, but the frozen assets.
No, I'm talking about the oil actually going out right now. That's what I'm talking about.
That they're making money, yeah, on that for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
So they're making money hand over fist right now. You know what I mean? But so you would think that in that scenario, then yeah, they didn't win on that. You know what I mean? Because they are actually being able to do what it is that they wanted to do all along. You know what I mean? And it went from basically a no compliance stance that we put out at first to now, it's like, well, maybe it really ain't that bad if we do this, or, well, we really wasn't looking for regime change, which that was kind of part of what some of this stuff was,
It's taking that step back, going,
right.
Oh, well,
right.
Actually,
right. And then like, well, it really wasn't about the dust that we're really concerned with right now. But when you started this, you said that they were days from being able to have a nuke. Okay. The Strait wasn't even a part of this when this started out. This dealt with civilian Iranians being killed, and the fact that they were within a short period of time of being able to have a nuclear weapon.
They were at dirty levels, which is 60%, and they did that on purpose so they can negotiate. The IRGC can negotiate with the United States, and they did that on purpose, which is actually very smart. For them to be at dirty bomb level at 60%, and then be able to negotiate like, hey, we're X amount of time away from getting to 90%, which is weapons grade. Yeah, I think it was very tactical. But the truth is they weren't days away. I love that rhetoric from our side, which is not true. If they were truly at 60%, it takes a lot more time than just a few days to do that. But
exactly.
Still.
But how was it even proven that it was even 60%?
I think that I don't know fully because it wasn't, inspectors that were reporting that. I think that was the IRGC's claim where they were claiming themselves that, hey, we're at 60 and we're basically, this is where we're staying until we figure out another deal. If there's not going to be a deal, then we enrich to 90.
Right. So basically talk.
Right.
I said it. You took my word for it, and that's basically what it was. There was no actual proof of saying like, okay, yes, they do have this. You know what I mean? But even when you had other U.S. officials, actually a couple of them that actually resigned, that said that they didn't have this, but we still making these crazy deals. What was you gonna say, Aaron?
Oh, I was just thinking about what you're saying. Both sides, well, all three sides have have intelligence networks, and you got spies out there spying. If they saw papers and took pictures of them and sent them back, that would lead someone to think that they got confirmation, and someone could leak something on purpose to a spy network. So you don't know for sure unless you actually see it.
Which
But
is
Exactly.
true, and none of
yeah,
us has seen it legitimately,
and
right?
and
So
yeah,
we're taking their word.
and I do want to address what you said earlier about part of us being there is because of the civilians that they killed, which was between 30 to 40,000. They killed their own protesters. I mean, half their country don't like the mullahs and the ayatollahs running the country the same way as half our country may not like Trump. But we're not out here murdering them in the street. And right now, the peak group of people that I kind of fear for is not only the protesters that are still inside the country, but the Kurds. They have invaded Iran because we asked them to rise up. Now we asked them under Bush twice to rise up against Iraq, and Iraq tore them up so bad they ran them up into the mountains that extends from Iraq into Iran, and we left them hanging. All we did was enforce a no-fly zone so they couldn't bomb them into non-existence and genocide them. But they've had a hard life living up there. Now they trusted our word again, and they've invaded from the north. And what's going to happen to them now that we didn't quit after we let them invade? They're going to get wiped out. And that's just ridiculous that people would trust us three times, and three times in a row, we screw them.
Hmm.
And man, I feel so bad for them. And that's the reason why Iran put that number 2 section in, where we have to stay out of their internal affairs because they're going to decimate some people and they don't want us coming back in because we signed the deal and we agreed to it.
Exactly.
Well, the sad
Because-
part about that whole thing is Trump is not even talking about, those protesters being killed anymore. It's not even an aspect of why we're doing anything at this point. And the one thing that I wish and hoped from people is understanding that the number aspect, right? There's 90 million people in Iran, and the truth be told, people are thinking like, oh wow, you got tens and tens of thousands of people dying, tens and tens of thousands of people that are being arrested. I don't know, man. I look at that whole situation, and it's like, if to get a true revolution, to happen there, you need millions of them.
Yeah.
You can't have 10,000 here, 10,000 there, 10,000 there, 40,000, whatever the case is. You need millions, people to really make a difference where they're going to turn that country over, right? So I think people don't understand the aspect of how big Iran actually is and the different subsects of Iran and how the IRGC runs all of that in like 35 different like quote unquote like states or little different like sections. It's actually very smart, and they built that off of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. They watched that happen. They said that won't happen to us. They watched that happen, and they're like, let's go ahead and change some shit around here. So if our top guys start dying off, we can still fight and we can still shut this down. We can still do this. They had a protocol. We're going to shut down the strait immediately. I mean, that's been their protocol for the last 47 years. Hence why we never actually fucked with them directly in the last 47 years, is because we always knew that was step number 1 for Iran. That's what they're going to do. And that's going to interrupt the globe. And that's exactly what we watched happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now now I know I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna ask you guys. The new Ayatollah. Now
Sure.
I still haven't seen his face yet. You know what I
Me
mean? Out
neither.
in public after all this has went on. Now there's been reports that he got hurt doing some of the
Yeah, he's a guy like me
strikes
now.
or whatever. You don't
He's an amputee or
Right.
something. You know what I mean? But anyways,
Right. So they never said whether or not, you know what I mean? Like I said, he could be unalive and they just saying that he's still there. You don't know.
true,
You know what I mean?
true.
Because nobody's actually seen him. Every now and again they'll put out a post and they say that, you know, he made this statement, whatever, but you haven't actually seen the man to even see like, okay, is he even still alive? You know what I mean? We don't even know. Um, but one of the things that I was thinking about when I was coming up with this, and one of the questions that kept popping in my head was, um, does the U.S. On our standing, are we trying to prevent this war, or are we negotiating power?
To
And
justify war again or something?
well, basically, like we're, you know, I know that we don't want to do the war,
Mm-hmm.
but but the way that we're pushing this stuff here, even though I mean it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that what's going on here, but we're actually losing negotiating power. And the reason why I say that is because like we may have reduced the immediate chance of going back to war. Okay. But at the same time, the economic concessions that also reduces a lot of the future leverage that we had on
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
And then the I guess like the ultimate answer would depend on whether Iran fulfills its commitments because we have to give this up first before they do anything because that's how this agreement is set up. So if Iran complies, then you know people will say like you know that was real smart diplomacy that we did there. We were able to negotiate. We was able to make this happen. But if Iran doesn't comply, then they would say that this was one of the hugest strategic mistakes that we've ever made. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like we're doing this as like I trust you to do this, but don't mess me over. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna release this stuff to you as a show of good faith. I'm gonna release these sanctions. We're gonna give you this. We're gonna give you that, but don't hose us over on the end. You know what I mean? Which to some people would actually say, well, you know what? I'm about to take everything that you offering me here, and I'm gonna capitalize on this 60
Mm-hmm.
days. I'm gonna make this 60 days count. And then when we get closer, then I'm be like, you know what? After careful consideration, we're just not gonna do this.
Yep.
Have a good day. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how that's structured.
But
You
that's
know what I mean?
exactly how it's going to go down too. That's exactly
Right.
verbatim what's going to happen.
You know, and I hear people all the time trying to compare this with the JCPOA and I mean, you really can't. You can't compare these two together. The reason being is because this is mostly dealing with the strait. This has
Yep.
really absolute nothing to do with nuclear right now. This is strictly
The
to
the
open up the
final
strait.
the final deal will correlate a little bit more to the
Right,
JCPOA
the
or
final
whatever.
deal. I'm talking about this
But
here. What they're
but this
talking about here.
MOA, yeah, this MOA is talking everything but what the JCPOA was talking about.
Exactly, exactly. So being able to try to compare these, you
You
can't
can't.
because what's
Right.
in the JCPOA has nothing to do with what we're doing right here. You know what I mean? But like you said, this is a lot of it's a lot of talk and a lot of propaganda and a lot of lies being told, this and the third. And if you really didn't really dig into it and do your own research to figure out what was going on, of course, you're gonna take somebody's word for whatever they say, and they're gonna go along with it, not realizing that these are two completely different deals, standing on two completely different circumstances. You know what I mean? So go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I was just going to say, from what I saw today, and it was the latest that I could find, Iran, there's a backlog of boats that's all stuck up in there, and some of them sailors been up there for months, and they're trying to get that backlog out of there. But Iran has stopped the boats from coming through the strait with that don't have a permit. Only previous permit holders are allowed to travel through the strait, which means they don't paid a fee. Iran has stopped issuing permits. All permits issued must be approved by the IRGC, which is your religious zealots there. The RGC are directly and selectively picking which boats that they're going to let through based upon specific conditions. And right now, the nations that are running out of oil, if they need the oil bad enough, they're going to have to make diplomatic concessions, which is basically Iran blackmailing the countries that don't have oil to be able to get their boats through. That's the only way it's going to happen right now. And Iran agreed in that agreement that they'd wait 60 days before they would start charging a fee. But I found out today, Iran said not only will a toll fee be charged, but also an insurance fee is going to be charged. So they're charging you insurance fees on top of it. I mean, this is political blackmail.
Yeah,
And if you
insurance
want
They're
to,
doing
fees
that
that we're not
now.
going to drone you.
yeah, I found that out today. I
Wow.
saw a couple different news sources at the last minute before the show that was talking about it. So if you want to come through there, you got to pay a toll fee and you got to pay an insurance fee that Iran is issuing to guarantee your safety.
Look at this. So the Strait, this is not what normal shipping lane looks like. Yes, there is some movement, very little movement compared to what it should be. I'll show you a shipping lane. These are all shipping lanes where they're just going in and out like, I mean, like cars, like traffic on a highway, you know.
Mhm.
And you'll see that around the world except for right here, you know. And look at the amount of ships. I mean, we're talking about, I mean, anywhere from like 20 to 30,000 sailors stuck in this mess right now.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, they're really, really stuck. And the majority of the actual like big tankers for oil, as you guys can see, the red dots, those are the actual oil tankers themselves. Green is just normal cargo, you know, like container ships and stuff like that. But you can see they strategically anchor them in a certain area. A lot of the stuff that you see arrows moving and stuff, they're not actually moving. They're just anchored or whatever the case is. And it shows that they're moving a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there really isn't that much traffic. And so it's interesting that the people that are going through are selected companies and or ship owners, whatever the case is, that they had paid something, which is the first time I'm hearing it from you, actually, Aaron.
Okay.
But that's not surprising though, because if it were straight open like that, literally, then you wouldn't see them anchored up like that and not moving at all. They would at least, you'd start seeing some sort of formation to a shipping lane if it was like actually kind of open, but it's not.
And I'm gonna add one more thing, based upon what you said earlier, Bishop. It's then came down to an issue of trust. Can the Gulf Coast countries, the GCC, can they trust our security agreements that we can protect their interests and protect them? And right now, we've lost that trust. And this deal we made with Iran, we definitely lost it. What they call them? The Saudis are buying protection from the Pakistanis because Pakistan's a nuclear power. So Pakistan's moved troops down to the Saudis. UAE has signed an agreement with China to protect them and their interests. And right now, the GCC in general, they're all trying to find a way to remain relevant, because now that Iran can claim the Strait, they want to build canals, they want to build pipelines through different of their neighbors' countries, so that they can get their oil through without having to pay tolls and ridiculous prices and submit to Iran's blackmail. I mean, Iran not only can limit can put a price tag on what they're going to charge them, they can limit how much they can sell. And the GCC is scrambling right now after that agreement that we made. We've lost the trust of that region right now.
Oh, big
I'll
time.
stop there. I'll stop
Big time. If they're looking at and going, hey, we're basically gonna take our kind of contract from the United States and move it on over to you guys. That's a big high tell sign from our own, you know, theoretic
allies,
recent allies, right? Yeah. You know, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting to be a mess. I mean, especially like if you're talking about, Aaron, if that is true that they are being selective about who they're letting into the Strait. You know what I mean? That's not a part of this deal. The deal was it was supposed to be open.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I mean? So know that they're trying to go through and try to push all the Chinese ships through first. Is that what they're doing? I mean, because that was a deal that they had set up with them.
Yeah.
So I think with the right here, see how it says in the MOU right here? It says number 4, let me move us here. Iran agrees to reopen commercial shipping. Traffic is expected to return to pre-war levels within 30 days. So they're doing with that whatever they can. I mean, our this MOU that we signed is stating that they got 30 days to basically do whatever the fuck they kind of want until we reopen it to where it's going to be open to the world. But by then, we're going to have 25 days left. You know what I mean? So 25 days is going to be free flowing passage if everything kind of goes the way it is right this second. But the thing is they got 30 days to play this game right now. And that's that. I think it is in the MOU. Like, we allowed that to happen. We allowed that rhetoric right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good interpretation, Mike.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a lot that's going back and forth dealing with this, and you have a lot of the Republican senators and the House members are also criticizing this agreement because they believe the U.S. may be giving too much stuff out too early.
Yes.
So, like, Iran gets to sell their oil now. They get sanction relief now. They get their legitimacy now. But on the other side, we get promises.
Yeah.
We get promises, future talks, and partial inspections. I mean, and that's why a lot of these lawmakers are demanding briefings, and they're asking whether Congress should have say before this sanction relief becomes too broad. And you keep hearing the word strategic loss in a lot of these interviews here lately. And now that doesn't mean that the U.S. has lost a battle. It means that a lot of these congressmen believe that America may be losing leverage on that actual negotiating table that they're doing right now, because we're giving out way too much up front and only getting promises, and we'll put this on the final paperwork, or we'll give you limited access to this. And you know what I mean, you would think that, okay, if you really wanted this deal, okay, we're gonna give you're gonna give us this, we're gonna give you access to this. Go check, see what you need to get. The only reason why I'm thinking that they're giving limited access dealing with this nuclear is because it's not really there. It's not what they putting it out to be. And they know that if you send those inspectors in there and they see that it's not what they said it was, what you gonna do then? Deals off.
Yeah, but I guarantee you Iran is looking at it going, we ain't allowing anybody, no matter what, under any circumstance, to be coming in and inspecting our shit, whether it's at 10%, 60%, 90%. No one's coming in here, you know what I mean, until we get a fucking deal on this shit. And they're not going to get a deal because we're not going to concede to what they want, essentially. We see the hard lines, right? We're saying where the United States hard lines and their hard lines, and they conflict. And so that leads us on a logical level to square one, right back to actual military warfare again.
Mm-hmm. See, but you also have to put in there too. It's like, okay, just like you just said, we're not going to let you come in here and look at nothing. Okay. Right. Then you ain't getting this money then.
Exactly. Yep.
You know what I mean? Okay. So I'm gonna give you this. You're going to let me see this. You don't let me see this, I'm not giving you this. You know what I mean? Simple as that. I'm not going to say.
But where does it all lead to when people say no to money or something like that? Then what does it lead to? It leads to warfare again. It all kind of boils down into force.
Personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of what I see. I don't see this agreement actually making it.
No,
past 60 days. I don't even see this going to an actual agreement, period. What I see happening is that they're They're going to posture up. They're going to get all that. They're going to play the role. They're going to get all that they're going to get in these 60 days, and then they're going to give you their ass to kiss on the back end. That's what I see.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
That's
We're
what I
not
see.
talking about what ought be. We're talking about what is, and what, as analysts, that's exactly what I look at. It's like, do I want warfare? Of course not. Of course I don't want, but I am a realist. I'm someone that's going to look at this and be like, okay, where does this actually lead us? Without feelings, emotions, none of that. Where does it lead us again? And it's always going to give you the same answer.
And see, then too, if you look at this, like I said, just my opinion. If you look at this, and let's say that deal does go off and the U.S. does decide to go to war, right? They could actually turn around and say, well, we offered them all of this, and they still shammed us on the back end. That's why we're doing this. You see what I'm saying? And they would be, in the minds of people here, would be totally in the right for doing it. Because, yeah, okay, so you gave them 300 billion here, you gave them 25 billion here, you release sanctions here, you let them sell their own oil here, and then they turn around and cross you on the back end. So, yeah, go ahead and do what you want to do. You're going to have more people that will back you on that end as they are now. You see where I'm getting there?
Yeah.
So it could go either way. I just don't see this going to no actual full agreement based off of what they have right here. There's no way.
No.
There's no way. I don't even think the actual Republican Party would even agree to let them go through this right now.
No, you're right. You're right. And some Republicans disagree with the war because Israel disagrees with that decision of the MOU. Then you have other America First that are against that kind of, like, where you look at that and it's like, objectively, that doesn't look good for us, right? And so the Republicans absolutely are going to look at this and go, no. I mean, this is a very unfavorable war for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say half of the Republican Party is against it already. Let this go on for a little bit longer and see how many more.
Right, right. And then I heard today on another show that a lot of these Gulf states were actually uniting because they don't feel that the U.S. will actually protect them the way that they promised that they were going to protect them, and they're basically joining forces and starting their own thing to be able to protect themselves. You know what I mean? Which is slowly pushing you out of that region. You know what I mean? Which, if you remember, one of the other points in the previous point plan that they had put out was that they wanted all U.S. forces, all U.S. bases out of that area, out of that whole region. Now, if these Gulf states come together because they feel that the U.S. is not able to protect them from Iran, then what does that do? Pushes those bases out of those areas.
Of course it does. That logically follows, you know?
Right. What happens though at that point? You don't have your stronghold there that you normally have. That petrodollar is kaput. And now you want to outside looking in. That's why I'm saying this deal here takes away your leverage. This takes away all negotiating power that you're doing if you agree to this. You know what I mean? So basically what you're doing is letting the fly tame the horse. You know what I mean? That's exactly what this is.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
That was a good analogy.
Yeah, I'm gonna call Iran the air mafia, because I mean, in the area that the mafia controls, they push the police out, or they corrupt the police. The United States is being moved over to the side, and we're willing to pay them to still have a seat at the table. But having a seat at the table don't mean anything. It's who puts the food on the table, who's paying for the food. That means more than just having a seat at the table, because the person paying the cost to be the boss is going to run the show. And right now, we gave too much power over to Iran. We created this Frankenstein monster, and now we got to live with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now think about I've been sitting here while Aaron was talking here. I was writing down the pros and cons from this
Oh
deal.
boy.
Okay, so here's the pros.
Oh man.
This will prevent a wider Middle East war. Okay,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
got I got 7 pros and I got about 7 cons. Okay,
Okay. All right.
okay. Here's the pros. It will prevent a wider Middle East war.
Mm-hmm.
It will keep global prices from exploding. Keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Um, would bring nuclear inspectors back to Iran partially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, reduce immediate risk of U.S. troops and allies, and create a little bit of breathing room for you to make this final agreement. Now, if that works, then people will say that Trump avoided a major war and forced Iran back into talks and ultimately striking an actual deal. Now, here's the cons. You're giving Iran money before any nuclear restrictions are even locked in. You're strengthening Iran's regional influence. You're rewarding Iran for using the Strait of Hormuz as leverage. You're weakening U.S. sanctioning power. You're leaving Israel exposed. You create division here in the U.S. in Congress,
Mm-hmm.
dealing
On
with
a
Senate and the House.
political level. Yep.
Mm-hmm. This extra money that you're sending over there, you're allowing Iran buying time to be able to, regroup, repurchase stuff that they had already used munitions, whatever. You actually paying for that. You basically giving them money to go back and pay for that. And where I think the biggest con on this is that we're depending too heavily on these promises that they're giving instead of actual enforcement
Sure.
of the promises that they're putting out. So there should be some kind of negotiating strategy there that kind of monitors this to make sure that this stuff goes the way
Actually
it's supposed to.
happens.
Right. But that's not
See,
that's
our
not what we're
enforcement
seeing here.
arm on that whole thing, the way that Trump thinks is it's military. So that's where he always boils down to. If you don't agree to this, I'm going to bomb the shit out of you. You know what I mean? That's his mindset. That's how he works. And once we understand that, that's always what he's going to resort to. Is like, okay, you don't want to agree to this shit? Cool on me, homie. I'm about to drop it like it's hot. You know what I mean? Seriously, that is exactly his mindset. And in some different ways, it can be more influential in different areas of the world. It just so happens that Iran is very unique in their leverage of the strait. Because the enforcement of actually shutting down a strait is actually very simple. You just have to threaten it. You don't have to actually even enforce it. And then ship captains and insurance companies are going, yeah, we're not allowing you guys to go through there. Boom, it's shut down. You know what I mean? It's very simple. And for them, they've always known that on a global scale, and so they knew that if anybody attacks us, not just the United States, I mean, anybody that is of significance will shut this shit down.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, though, there's been a lot of, since this ceasefire or whatever you want to call it,
MOU.
there's been a lot of threats back and forth. Okay, if you don't do this, I'm gonna do this. If you don't do this, I'm gonna do this. And then, I'm gonna give you 48 hours. I'm gonna give you 2 weeks. I'm gonna give you this. And, everybody talks about this for the next 2 weeks, week, or whatever, however long the time is given. And then you get to that time and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna take it off, or I'm gonna extend it another 30 days, or I'm gonna take back what I said. I mean, you can't, I understand that part of what you're trying to do, but you do it too often and you back off of it too often.
Like
to
where
the
you
point,
threaten too much and you're
right,
just all bark kind of thing.
right, to the point that people call your bluff now because they know that that's what you're going to do. You're going to yap, 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 yap all the way up to that time, and then you're going to back off of it.
Well, I would say honestly, objectively, maybe 50% of the time, maybe even a little bit more. But when he does clap back, it does suck for them. You know, I mean, it's decimating. You know, he really does go in there and fuck them up. You know, on a
Yeah,
military
but
front.
like even with that, look at how it was though. Okay, they come back, boom, 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 boom. Okay, yeah, I hit you. What you gonna do? You know what I mean? They don't do it. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Okay, I just knocked down your bridges. What you gonna do? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you
True.
playing with them. You know what
Well,
I'm
I
saying?
mean,
If you're
look at.
gonna
I
hit,
mean, we see straight, basically a good representation is, for instance, like Russia, Ukraine. Look, I mean, look at the destruction that's happening over there, and how they are nonstop, where it's still unwilling to sit and even talk. It's kind of the same thing, but again, like I was saying, this is a lot of psychological warfare on top of economic warfare on top of a military warfare. I mean, it's the entire package here.
yeah, yeah. That's why I said before. There's a lot. There's a lot to this. You know what I mean? You're not gonna You're not going to win a war behind a desk negotiating, and you're not going to win a war just shooting missiles. That's not going to
Mm-hmm.
work either.
True.
I mean, it's a full range deal. You know what I mean? Now, is that something that we're talking about that we want to happen? Absolutely not. But I do think that if this goes south, that's exactly what you're going to get. You know what I mean? And it's going to be one thing. It's not going to be like a culmination of things. It's going to be one thing that's going to break this whole deal. Shit gonna hit the fan. You know what I mean? And then now, at that point, everybody's gonna want to hit as hard as they can hit, simply because they're gonna feel like on this end that they got played, that they gave you too much, and you gave them your ass to kiss at the end. That's exactly what this deal is looking like. This is not looking like something that's gonna be equal. You know what I mean? This is not a balanced deal at all.
Nope, it's not.
You got anything, Aaron?
No,
Well, he's got
you
something to
guys,
show for us too, as well. By the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know he got his little. I know he got his little thing set up there. I just think that at the end of the day, this agreement becomes one or two things. It may become a breakthrough that stops the war, opening shipping lanes, lowers the oil prices, brings Iran nuclear program back under international oversight, which that was what was supposed to have been going on ever since, the JCPOA back in 15. Or it may become a strategic mistake where Iran gets economic relief, gains regional power, and gives up very little in return. The truth is, we don't know yet because the final details aren't fully locked in. They don't even know yet as to what they're going to agree to and what they're not going to agree to. But there's a lot of money that's been passing back and forth. There's a lot of money being made on promises and speculations. But what we do know is that when a country receives money, oil access, sanction relief, legitimacy before any kind of restrictions are even finalized, we as Americans have every right to ask all these questions. Because what are we paying for? What are you releasing sanctions for? What are you releasing frozen assets for? If it's not a balanced deal. So I'm just I'm gonna leave that part where it's at. You know what I'm saying? I think we put out enough with that deal just to make you sit back and think about this whole deal. Like this isn't when you look at this, a lot of stuff that we've been seeing on mainstream, they've been kind of pointing this out, trying to make this a whole political thing, a whole, well, Obama did this and Trump doing this and this, you know what I mean? This ain't really a political type situation. This is a This is this is actually a whole U.S. thing. Because if you fall for this deal, the way it's put out right now, you took yourself from being the global dominant, you're gonna drop down 2, 3 notches. You know what I mean? And the only reason why you did is just simply because, oh well, we're gonna take over the strait. You know what I mean? We're gonna hit the oil. Okay. Oil prices go up, everything else goes up, which is already doing. You know what I mean? You got a lot of these countries right now that's almost at tank bottom. The US being one of them. You know what I mean? Being the fact that we produce a mass amount of oil, we also export a large amount of oil to the point that we're almost at tank bottom. We're like 4 weeks away from tank bottom if we don't change the direction that this oil is going instead of going out, coming in. We're going to get hit as well. You know what I mean? And it's our own fault because we're still pushing it out to everybody else and not taking care of what's going on here. Like I said, this whole thing started at the beginning. I know, Mike, you say it all the time, America first.
Mhm.
This ain't been no America first.
No, it's
Not
not.
no America first now. It don't look like it's gonna be for a good while. You know what I mean? Because we're gonna end up feeling it whether we want to or not. It's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Just playing around with the gas. You know what I mean? Some people are satisfied now because the gas dropped 20 cent, 25 cent. Okay, they're happy on that end. This is the pencil whipping game. We've already talked about this. You know what I mean? This stuff is gonna happen. Actually, I was sitting through the other day looking through a lot of the older stuff that we had done. We had actually done a show back in June 5th of 2025. Basically, it was talking about what Israel was going to do to make the U.S. go to war with Iran. We talked about this June 5th of 2025. Look at what's going on now. You know what I mean? A whole year later, but everything that we was talking about in that video, a lot of that stuff went on right now. So those of you go back and watch that one, June 5th, 2025 show. Watch it because it's basically talking about what we were talking about a year ago. It's actually the same thing that we're talking about right now. It's kind of crazy. Um, so I see Aaron got his whole little display of goodies out there. So we're gonna let him
Okay.
talk about what he got right there. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, what I'd like to talk about today is probably the third most expensive item that you would have to purchase as a prepper, a budget prepper, I'm gonna call it like that, and that is antibiotics. Now you might say, what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are an antimicrobial substance that is active against bacteria. It will either kill the bacteria or it can inhibit its growth. Now, people were buying veterinarian antibiotics, but they found out that the government found out what was going on in the prepper community and they shut that down. In order to get veterinarian antibiotics, you have to have a prescription for a veterinarian. And you can't just go to a regular doctor and buy antibiotics. But there is a company and it's called Jace Case. They have a product called Jace Case. The company's called Jace Medical. Mike, if you don't mind, put up picture 2, please.
Yeah, give me a second. Number
Okay.
2 here.
Oh,
Oh, wait, nope, that's the old
Oh,
one. This one right
okay.
here. Boom.
Yes. You can see the price right there. It's $289.95. Now, this week is Amazon Prime week. It went from Tuesday through Friday. I don't know if you can get these on Amazon or not, but I know if you go to Jace Medical's website, you can buy them there. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions that deal with your health. They want to find out if you have any allergies. If you have an allergy to Pacific antibiotic, then they would put a substitute antibiotic in. That may not be the same generic name. It might be something different. But go ahead and come back to me, Mike. Okay. This is the case right here. You can see it says Jace. This is what it looks like when you receive it in the mail. You get basically 5 different antibiotics, 2 of one particular type. You got 1 of each, and you also have 1 here. Another thing that you get is a book. And you can look up each of the antibiotics in here. It will tell you what each one does, what it can treat, or you can look up a condition and it would tell you what antibiotics can cure that condition. It go anywhere from tetanus to some bioweapons all the way down to gangrene and stuff like that. Treating foodborne illnesses like salmonella, E. coli, listeria. Antibiotics has probably saved my life hundreds of times in my lifetime. Without it, most people would not make it. This is a must-have item. You cannot do without this. Give you an idea of what the kit includes. Mike, give me picture 1, please.
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Number 1 here. Boom. There you go.
Okay. Now, it shows you different kits that they have. You see the little bluish green one there on the side. That's what I call a survivor kit. That kit includes azithromycin, amoxicillin. You get 2 bottles of doxycycline hycolate. You get 1 bottle of metronidazole, nadazole. You get 1 bottle of ciprofloxacin. And with the doxycycline hycolate, you'll get 2 bottles of that. You can treat syphilis with that, acne, sexually transmitted infections, chlamydia, e.g. mycoplasma, gonorrhea, Lyme disease, etc. And we know that Lyme disease is going around with these ticks. The azithromycin is chest infections, ear and nose infections, throat infections, pneumonia, whooping cough, etc. The metronidazole is GI tract infections, lung infections, STD infections, gastrointestinal, skin, bone, nervous system, etc. The amoxicillin clavate is a combination. It's designed for bacterial infections in different parts of the body, e.g. ear, skin, lung, urinary tract infections. The amoxicillin is basically in the same category and same family as penicillin.
Real quick, Aaron, I got to ask a question. Multiple people are asking. So, what is the shelf life on these things?
Okay. That depends on how you store it. It should be stored in a cool, dry place with no direct sunlight. You don't want sunlight beaming on it, heating them up. In fact, you can even extend the shelf life if you're able to put them into a refrigerator. But if you put them in your basement in a cool, dry place, they keep for years. And what's good about antibiotics versus regular drugs, when they reach the expiration point, some of them become toxic and you got to throw them away. With antibiotics, they don't become toxic. What they become is they lose potency. So where you may have had to take a whole pill of something, you might end up having to take 2 pills of something if you've gone well past the expiration date. But it's something that you must have. Then another antibiotic it has in it is ciprofloxacin. That's for urinary tract infections, anthrax, gastrointestinal infections, sexually transmitted infections, typhoid, joint, both bone and skin infections, etc. Now, they want you to only buy 1 kit a year. So I basically went with the survivor kit the first year. Now I'm up to where I can buy another kit. So sometime this year, I may customize the kit. I can contact them and say, hey, I want amoxicillin, I want ciprofloxacin, but I want 2 bottles of ivermectin in it. I may have another item that I want to have in it, and I may design my own kit, which they will allow you to do that. You can even do that on the first kit. But for someone that doesn't know what to ask for, you could just basically get a survivor kit and let them pick the antibiotics out for you. And believe me, if we ever face the hard times that are ahead, and we're living in dangerous times right now, those hospitals aren't going to be open. China manufactures 80% of the antibiotics. India makes the rest. If we get into a war with China, do you really think that pharmaceutical drugs are going to make it over here to this country? when we stop manufacturing the stuff here for cheaper labor and for rich people's greed, we created an Achilles heel for ourselves. They can cut us off at the ankles and hurt us bad. Without the drugs coming in here to treat people with, you got almost 40 million people that take drugs just to control their minds, for depression, for schizophrenia. I mean, when you hear people say, I'm preparing for the zombie apocalypse, and you laugh and joke, oh, they're preparing for all the insane people that are going to go crazy that's going to be out there on them streets murdering folks because they no longer can get their drugs. So, and if you have to go to a hospital, that's if the power grid is down, that's going to be third world totally. And antibiotics is going to be worth their weight in gold. Right now, you're going to pay $289, probably a little over $3 with tax. But my God, without it, how are you going to make it? You get a cut and you develop tetanus. You eat some contaminated food or drink some contaminated water. How are you going to shed it? Are you going to stand there and watch your family die a slow death in agony and pain when all you had to do was invest a little bit of money now? I mean, I know people spend more than that on lottery tickets a week. So I strongly suggest that you get some antibiotics, put them on your shelf, and when somebody gets hurt in your family, you can treat them at home instead of having to try to get them to the hospital and hope that you can get back, or that somebody ain't rounding you up when you get to the hospital to stick you in a FEMA camp somewhere. I mean, these things you gotta think ahead on. You got to get out in front of, and when it happens, you saw it coming and you was ready. And with that, I'll stop.
What's
Question,
the
Aaron.
actual link? Do you know? I mean, is it
It's
jacecase.com? What is it?
it's Jace Medical.
Yeah. Yep.
But
It shows,
if you type in Jace Case, Google that, it will come up.
it shows jace.com on the first one that you showed.
Okay.
For people to know link wise. Now, also, what was my question on that? Damn it. Oh, how much did it cost you for the kit that you're presenting? How much did that cost?
That kit cost me $250, but that was over a year ago. Now the price is $289.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So 289 for
yeah.
an investment for basically a year. You do it every year, right?
You can buy a new kit each year, or you can buy a big kit. I mean, they got much bigger kits in the $400 something range that cover everything.
Damn.
But you got to start off with the basics somewhere. And this case right here, this Jace case, is a basic case. And then you just stock your shelf with over-the-counter meds, anything that will give relief for cold, flus, stomach ailments, different things. With this backing it up, you can self-treat at home and take care of a lot of abnormalities, or however you want to say it.
And you can do it right away.
Yeah.
Instead of like needing to go to a doctor or get a prescription for
Right.
whatever, you're ahead of the game. So
Right. I mean, let's say you get a toothache right now and your mouth gets infected. What are they going to prescribe to you? Amoxicillin. They're going to
Yep.
want you to take 800 to 1,000 milligrams of amoxicillin to get the infection down. When the infection is gone, then they can go in there and work on your teeth.
Yep.
So
Every time.
amoxicillin comes in this kit. So does
Nice.
ciprofloxacin.
Well, I'm definitely gonna buy myself a kit.
You know, I heard back a while ago. I know they figured it out and then they stopped doing it. A lot of times, people were going to like the feed store and was buying the vitamins and stuff like that they were given to given to like horses and cattle
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right.
And they were buying that up because it was the same thing. It was just a different dosage.
I'll tell you what the difference is in the vitamins and the what do you call it? The antibiotics. Human antibiotics go through 2 more filtering processes that animal antibiotics don't. Anytime that there's a war, and I learned this during the Bosnian, Serbian, and Croatian conflict, when they got low on meds and they was blowing up the humanitarian help that was coming in there to them, they immediately raided all the veterinarian places, because antibiotics for humans, all mammals take the same antibiotics,
Right.
basically.
Right.
So I mean, even whales take the same antibiotics. So just two more filtering processes difference in human antibiotics and animal antibiotics. And what you will notice is the same labs that make the animal antibiotics make the human antibiotics.
Mm. Well, that makes sense.
Mhm.
That does make sense.
Okay. Well, Aaron, we appreciate you, like always, for bringing this, bringing something else out. I know next week you'll have something else for us to look at.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you're gonna make me spend all this money, man. I don't like this. I'm dedicating each week, like, oh, now I gotta buy this. You got me, motherfucker.
oh yeah. So we're gonna taper the show down for the evening. Like I said, we appreciate everybody that come out. Like always, before you walk out, hit that like button. Like I said, that gets us out on a proper algorithm and get this show out to as many people as possible. That's hitting that like button is the easiest thing to do, but also that helps us more than any super chat or anything else that you can put out, because that gets us out to the people that needs to see this. So, like I said, if you're not familiar with what that is, you see the little thumbs up on the bottom there, hit that, or on the chat side, you see the little heart, you hit that and got a little drop down box. You got the little hearts, hit those, mean the same thing, hit them. That's what triggers the algorithm to let them know, like, okay, they're talking about something over there. We need to get this out. So, like I said, 7 days, we'll be back again. Appreciate each of you to come out. Those of you that's not on the Facebook group chat, go on the Dominant Effect Facebook group. We got a lot of stuff that we put on there every day. A lot of articles, stuff like that. Go on there. Also, if you hit the little QR code up there, that takes you to the website, which we have a lot of the shows come on there, a lot of the merchandise, stuff like that goes on there. And if you go on there and actually become a subscriber on there, then it opens you up to another section where you're able to see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see on the regular site itself. So go on there and check that out as well. So we'll turn you over to Mike for the closing. Like I said, see you all. Much love to you, and I'll see you all in 7 days.
Yeah, man. Well, what an amazing conversation as always. And I can't thank you guys enough for making sure that you guys are hitting that like button, like AB was saying. Thank you guys for your engagement. You guys hitting the subscribe button and engaging on both sides. Listen, Aaron, you're always costing me money. You're a motherfucker. But I appreciate you because you're saving my life. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it also something that I want people to understand, that I think everyone here wants to people to understand, is that you don't need to do everything overnight. You don't need to buy every fucking thing to survive. All generator, this, all in one day. You don't need to do that. It's the idea of like stacking, one little thing at a time. And you got to move at your own pace in the aspect of, your income and your money or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to do this overnight, but it is smart to get on top of it. Like, for instance, one little thing that I do is no matter when I go to the store, I don't care what I'm going for. I could go for a Slim Jim. I'm gonna grab me a pack of water. That pack of water cost me $4. You know what I mean? And I already have enough water, but it's habit now that I always get myself an extra case of water, no matter when I go. It's just one case of water at a time. Yeah. It's the same ideology of stacking, right? Yeah. So naturally, over the course of time, you're set, right? So anyways, I can't thank you guys enough for the expertise that you guys bring, the knowledge, all of it, and the objective looking at all of these things. I mean, on every subject that we have talked about on the Diamond Effect, I mean, we seriously look at these things objectively. And I really do appreciate being able to have a panel like this that people actually can look at shit objectively. So anyways, much love, honor, respect, everybody. We'll see you guys here in 7 days.